Welcome to On Air with Kate Butler, where we are revealing life's best kept secrets. Welcome back to On Air with Kate Butler. I am so happy and excited to have you here today. I'm even going to shine some light on that subject. I am going to introduce you to our very next guest. Sarah Magill is a professional hype woman and visibility coach helping entrepreneurs own their spotlight. As a social media strategist, she draws out the authentic stories and experiences of entrepreneurs and uses them to grow their reach and build emotional connections with their target audience. Sarah is also a #1 international best-selling author, NBD, for her contribution to our book, Believe Beyond, available on hopefully Sarah's website, if not now, soon.
Soon.
Yes. Sarah explains that her spiritual journey evolved into her entrepreneurial journey, which is really, really wildly inspiring. She is passionate about continued growth and self-improvement, bringing what she's learned back to her clients. And when she's not running her company, Sarah runs a fiery household with her vibrant daughter and husky. I love that you have a husky. She went from food stamps to homeowner to business owner and lives with the question, how good can it get? She chases what lights her soul the most: connection, travel, dancing, and occasional doses of adrenaline, and invites her community to do the same. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. This is our third interview together, and I just have such a blast with you. And I always know the best downloads are going to come out when I'm working with you.
Oh, I love that. I feel that too, because you can just show up and be yourself, and you have a beautiful way of just letting that authenticity shine through. And I feel like when we can do that in our light and in our brilliance, right? Like, so like where we shine the most, and then we're the smartest, right? Like just innately, I feel like that's really where the downloads come through, and you really have a beautiful, beautiful way of showing up that way.
Thank
So
you.
tell me, Sarah, what have you had a game-changing moment in your life? And can you tell us a little bit about what that might have looked like?
Sure. Yeah. So I am one of those crazy people that I don't know, I just refuse to live like a boring, stagnant life. So and I'm here. That's my purpose, is to just shine as bright as possible. And so when you're living large like that, you have these moments all the time. So, I would say that one of those groundbreaking moments is just when there's kind of a high risk or a high reward. It's like the stakes are high, but if you're playing big, you have these all the time. So it was kind of hard for me to pick just one, but I definitely feel like the decision to buy a house was huge for me. And I'm a single mother. I'm an only income earner for my family, for me and my daughter. And so the main chatter in the mainstream is, home ownership is really unattainable, especially for a single income household, especially for a woman. But due to some emotional things that happened, I had a roommate for a while, and it started off really well. We were raising our daughters together, and things ended up getting pretty tense. Just differences in raising children, really started to come to the surface. And it got to a point where it just wasn't a healthy arrangement anymore. And I realized that I absolutely had to get out of there, right? So the discomfort really gave me a ton of motivation and a ton of clarity. And I just decided that I'm going to buy a house. Well, actually, I just decided I'm going to get my own place. I didn't even think I could buy a house, but that whole process, that decision, right? That made me, I did this exercise where I kind of mapped out my dream life. It's something that Jen Sincero mentions in her book, You Are a Badass. She said, write out your life, how you want it, and how does that, how much does it cost? Get a number, because we often say, oh, this is unattainable, or this is so hard or so expensive, quote, and we decide we can't have it before we even figure out what it takes to get it. So I sat there and I calculated everything, and everything worked out so beautifully because I went to my boss at the time. I was working at a winery. I was big into hospitality. I live in Washington wine country. So I was big in the hospitality industry here. And I said, you're paying me $15 an hour. And because I had done that exercise, I knew that I needed to get to $24 an hour. And I said, what can you do to make that happen? And they said, nothing. So I went out looking for a job that would be able to give me that. And I I went job to job and I had that number in my head. I wanted to get to $24 an hour. And so because I was determined and I was looking everywhere and I was looking for any possible opportunity to make this happen, I was luckily connected with a job where, the boss actually let me name my price. And I said, well, $24 an hour. Actually, I said 27 because I wanted some wiggle room. And she says, okay, let's do it. And I go, oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. Let's do that. And within the day, or no, sorry, by the end of the week, I had an offer letter, which I took right next door to the mortgage lender, and I got pre-approved based on that. And the timing of it worked so beautifully because this was November 2019. So what a time right before COVID to get out of hospitality and get into real estate. That was that last office job that I had. Get that house, and the housing market also went crazy in COVID. And I think that's a really good example of you have this desire and you have to follow these little desires, these little sparks of inspiration that come to you because everyone's journey is different. But if you're just having that feeling in your gut that this has to happen, then make it happen. Because I tell you, I'm just so grateful for my house and I'm so grateful to have a solid place for my daughter to live. And now that I own my own business, it's a little bit different to get qualified for a mortgage. And so everything worked out with the market and the interest rates and the jobs and the timing of it all. And that decision to buy my house was just, and I'm on that investment escalator, right? So it was just, it was so scary. I had so many meltdowns about it, but I'm so, so glad that I just went into it and I didn't have a plan B. I was like, this is the only plan. And it worked.
Wow. So I love how you're pulling out that life can actually unfold for you better than you even expect, right? And I really like when you pull that out, right? Because it's like, yes, we can like map out our vision for our life and like we can put, what it is that we want and we can create that story. But also what is not lost on me about your story is that when you leave space, when you leave a little bit of opening, right? When you allow that magic to come in, then all of a sudden you allow space for things to actually maybe show up better than you could have even have thought of or pictured for yourself, right? And you illustrated that so, so beautifully in your example. Okay, so when you were in this discomfort, right? And like when you knew you needed to make a move, tell me about like, what did you tell yourself in that moment? Or did you make a decision in that moment that you've always been able to like stick to and like come back to, right? Like, and so like that, I want to talk about like that driving force a little bit, because that was a pretty remarkable story. So like when you're in these moments of like discomfort where you're like, okay, I knew something needed to change. Like, is there something that you tell yourself, or how do you like ground yourself in that decision when things get a little rocky or a little tough or don't exactly work out in that moment the way you think that they will? How do you keep going? Like, what do you tell yourself in that moment to keep yourself motivated or inspired?
Yeah, I think I use a lot of visualization. So I used to go, I had that desire and it just got to a, like I said, the discomfort just got to a point where there was no other option. So I think that remembering that, when we have, obviously I would have never asked to have that tension with my roommate. I didn't want that. But I think remembering that when things are not going good, that's an opportunity for us to, realign ourselves and to kind of calibrate our emotional guidance system, right? And so once that seed was planted, there's no letting it go, right? And so I remember driving around. My daughter was really young at the time, so she was taking naps in the car still. And I would drive around and I would drive in my favorite neighborhoods and she was sleeping in the back car and I would look at the house and I would imagine myself in the house, right? Like washing dishes right there, or coming up to turn the Christmas tree lights on, or walking up the front porch with groceries. And so I obsess about it. Once I decide I want something, I really obsess about it and I visualize it. And I've always been a daydreamer since I was a kid, and I didn't realize it was manifesting at the time. But I get really nitty gritty. What exactly does that look like? What does it smell like in that house? What kind of meals am I cooking? What's my daily routine look like? And I was on Zillow all the time too, and so I would look at these houses. Didn't even care if I was pre-qualified for that amount. I just decided I'm really just fully stepping into it, from a place of this is happening. And like I said at the time, I didn't know as much about manifesting and mindset as much as I did. I just wanted it so bad that I knew that the desire was stronger than anything that could possibly try to steer me off track.
That's such a great explanation for that. And I think a lot of people will be able to see themselves in that. So tell me, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
The best piece of advice, so much, but The one that really sticks out is when someone shows you who they are, believe them. There's a
The
lot of people.
first time.
Yeah, the first time, don't wait for 3 years or years, right? So, sometimes people, especially, there's so many people that are so charismatic out there and they really reel you in. And, you might have this little pang in your stomach that, maybe just a remark didn't hit you right, or, maybe they just responded to a conflict in a way that was really out of character for how you knew them to be. And I just think it's really important to listen to that and to trust yourself. We're so used to kind of like giving away our power, giving away our decision making, and the way that it hits us in our gut is really important. And so that was that story a little bit. Like I've shared it in that book, where I almost got married to this person that was just not a good match for me. And he showed me at the beginning who he was, but I didn't want to believe it. He was so handsome and all the things. He wanted what I wanted. And I just kind of I knew in my gut it wasn't right, but I ignored it. And so the the belief in myself of, you know what, Sarah, you can make these decisions. You can decide if you like or don't like somebody, and all the love, send them all the good vibes, but I'm just going to go over here a little bit, and that's okay. And so it kind of goes back to what I said of just trusting your internal guidance system and the way that you feel in a moment. So somebody say it shows you, words. It's so easy to say words and the words sound nice, but how you feel and their actions and how that all kind of resonates inside of you, that's really important to listen to. So that I would say that's my number one top piece of advice for sure.
And that's a Maya Angelou quote, so we'll go ahead and give credit there. But
Okay, great.
so absolutely, it is such incredible wisdom in that. It is a very, very, very powerful statement, and specifically in your story, to be able to take that away and learn from that and say, this is now something that is embedded in me. Like, I will be able to take that with me, right? And as I walk into future relationships and walk into future circumstances, like, now I have learned that lesson, right? I don't need to learn it again. Like, I'm complete. I take that with me now, and now I can go on. And that's how we know we've learned a lesson, is that we can now go on to teach that to other people. So that's really, really beautiful. So what is next for Sarah Magill?
Okay, well, I'm taking my daughter on her first international trip this year. So I'm very excited about that. I don't know where we're going yet. I traveled a ton before I ever had children, and that was always something in my 20s. I kind of had to put that aside. So now we're at a good place. We're in the process of applying for her passport. And, it's more than just the experiences that I'm sharing with her. It's about showing her that this is what 3 years of working on yourself and your business is looking like. And I'm really getting to the point where like I'm reaping what I've sown over the past few years. I'm definitely going to be speaking a lot more. I set a goal to do 4 speaking engagements in 2025. At the end of April, I'll have done 6. So that feels really good. And I'm very, very diligently, I'm in this very intense mastermind right now where I'm totally revamping the back end of my business, just going for operational excellence, making sure my team and my systems are like a well-oiled machine so that it supports me to be able to go traveling with my daughter and have these amazing experiences, and also be, really lean into my visibility. I always say I'm going to help my clients own their spotlight, but I'm also owning my spotlight. And this is the year. This is the year for it. It's already been amazing. Just Q1. It's already been like a whole year in the first quarter, and I'm just ready for more. Like, crank up the dials. I'm here for it.
Yes, I love that. Own that spotlight. Okay, so do you have a free gift for the audience that you'd like to talk about?
Yes, I absolutely do. So, as you mentioned, I'm a social media strategist and I own a social media company. So, when people come to work with me, they don't really know the first step that they need to take. And so, something that they can do right off the bat is to update their bios and optimize their profiles. And what that's going to do is it's going to help your target audience find you better. There's a certain way, in those 150 characters on Instagram, you can attract your audience, you can position yourself as an authority, and you can encourage them to leave the platform and go to your email list and get that lead capture, because if we're in business, we want a list of people that are interested in what we do, and that's crucial. So I have on my website, I have a freebie where you can download a guide, and it's for Facebook and Instagram, and you can definitely use the same principles to apply to any of your platforms, whether it's TikTok or LinkedIn or anything else. And I have formulas on there, and it's just a really great way to refresh and make it really streamlined, so that way when you are showing up regularly, you're getting the full benefit from the traction you're building.
And what I love about your story, Sarah, also is that, you described to us so eloquently that, you were in a situation where you needed to figure out a different way of living with your daughter, right? Like as a
Right.
single mom, you said, this isn't working for me. Like I need more income. I want a different life. I want to create more things. I want to buy a house and I want to provide, travel and a different lifestyle, right? And so how am I going to, do this? And you were able to take your personal story and you were able to create, right, this business where you said, like, I deserve to be visible and I deserve to shine and I deserve the spotlight. And by the way, so does everyone else out there. And let me show you how to do it, right? It's really, really beautiful. Like when somebody can take what they have learned in their own life, apply it successfully to what you've created, and then allow other people, right, the very clear pathway to do the same thing for themselves. So I love your business. I love what you do. We'll drop the links in the show comments. So no worries. All the links will be right here for you and all the show notes. Sarah, thank you so much for being our guest today. I always, always love chatting with you.
Thank you, Kate. I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
Complete rock star over here. Check out Sarah Magill. Go to her links, get all of the goodies that she has to offer you. Connect with her on the socials. She is an excellent, excellent follow. And we will see you next time on Air with Kate Butler, revealing life's best kept secrets. Today with Sarah Magill. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening today. I would love to connect with you on social, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook under Kate Butler Books. If you're interested in accessing some life-changing tools and techniques, you can grab those right off of the homepage of my website for free, and that is katebutlerbooks.com. And you can always check back here to download new episodes from our podcast right here where you listen today. Until next time, thank you for making this world a better place just by being you.